Hallo, agus fáilte blá ormh go trí seascad. An program ag BBC Alba ha dul go cría spórs na banan seán Alba agus na Stàitean fallh Cuideachd, secna nám a còmhradh gneach an móra in lá. Is mis Iona Ballantyne agus ha mí toiltear ra go bhfuil Emma Black Collarooms in studio, tí a babis chluicheadair son skip náisianta na Halba, Glasgow City, Celtic agus tópar na Maithir. Ar y program yn och, coeti sy'n arall gebichin ar an cheann-suidhe ar an SWPL a hyn. Fyr sy'n sŵl Cuideachd ar SWPL ga, agus Cluinnidh sy'n fo Haley Kern ag Dundee United, agus ha sy'n ar fi brwn ri sŵ Strachan a chiad cheann-suidhe boran ag Criogaid Alba. Emma, welcome to 360.
Hello.
You've been involved in football for so long. Can you just tell us a bit about your career?
Yeah, of course. I started off age of about 7 in primary school. Started playing with boys teams, no local girls teams in and around the area I lived in at that time. And then it progressed on to, it came to a stage where you were 12, 13, you weren't quite allowed to play with the boys no longer. So I then had to find a local girls team. It was Cumbernauld, a little bit, 15 minutes or so from home. So I joined Cumbernauld Cosmos, spent 3 or 4 seasons there. And then I was obviously picked up with Glasgow City, Peter Caulfield, at the age of 16, because there was no ladies teams at Cumbernauld Cosmos at that stage. And then I had joined Glasgow City when I was 16. Spent 11 seasons there before then I announced my retirement to have a kid. That was my plan, that was always my goal in life, to have kids, and I just felt that I had did enough in football for me. I had represented Scotland 40 times or thereabouts, and I'd travelled the world and won so many trophies with Glasgow City. Was captain for a stage, vice captain, and played in Champions League, and I just felt then at the stage in my life, I felt then I wanted to go on and move on and take a different path.
Even at the age of 12 and 13 when you're growing up and then you're told that you have to play for a girls team, you can no longer play with the boys, how do you feel?
It was, I felt that it was right, because it was very difficult in terms of when I was moving up to high school, you know, there was the comments about there's that girl that plays football with the boys, and it wasn't very nice at that stage, and I felt it's the right age, obviously when you're maturing, etc. So it was difficult, and then obviously when I joined the girls team, Cumbernauld Cosmos, it was almost like the manager at that time, her name was Carol. She'd managed to go around Glasgow and North Lanarkshire area, and she handpicked all the best players in that area. So she did really well, and we'd managed to obviously have a group of players, and at that time there was like Leanne Crichton, Suzanne Lappin, the Condé sisters, and you know, all those girls then went on to have great careers in women's football, so it just showed that she had an eye for a player at that stage.
That's amazing that you kind of were all involved with that team. I guess you must have seen the game just change so much over the years.
Yeah, even joining Glasgow City at the age of 16, we were training twice a week, and one was in a gym hall, the old hard gym flooring, and then obviously the next session was outdoors. So that was, we had no kit, we would turn up to training, just wear your own stuff, and it wasn't quite intense of what it is now. You know, if you missed a training session, that would be okay, because you would still attend a match on a Sunday and still play. So going from that stage to now, where women's football is just incredible. I wish it would maybe happen a little bit quicker than what it has done, because it's taken a long time to progress.
It is it's so amazing to kind of see where we're at now. And for you personally, when you did announce your retirement in 2015, you left, as you say, to have your wee girl. How was it kind of coming back into football after that, and how much of a toll did that take on your body?
It was difficult. It was difficult. I can remember giving birth to Sophia, and actually was discharged from hospital the same day. And I'd said to Eddie, my husband, I'm going to go out a run the following day. And he's like, no, you can't, you've just had a baby. And it actually was a week later, and I'd managed to get to the bottom of the hill, and I had to walk back up because it was just like too much. And I thought to myself, I'm not used to this. So it did take a long time. And even now when I'm in the gym or training, I still find it difficult, and I don't want to then say, oh, that's because of Sophia, because it does take a lot on your body.
And what about when you were playing, because you did go back to play with Motherwell and Celtic whilst your wee one was quite young, how did you balance that? It
was difficult. I didn't really want to go back to football, but obviously when Eddie suffered his brain hemorrhage, he then was asked to go and help out at Motherwell, and I just went along initially to make sure he was okay in terms of being his taxi driver. Was he well enough to be back at work so soon after such a big stroke on his body, you know, and it was obviously he's now physically disabled. So that was the only reason I went back. And then obviously I had Sophia, she was still so little. So me going to training in the evenings, she was in bed, so she didn't really know we were away from home because my sister-in-law and brother, they would look after Sophia, so she didn't know we'd went away. And then as she got older, and then I went to Celtic, and the training then increased to 4 nights a week. It was so difficult to have that commitment, and we wouldn't always make training. And Sophia then was free, and she was asking, why are you leaving the house again? So at that stage, I thought, I can't continue to do this because my full focus should be on Sophia.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, and we'll be hearing from you shortly. As Iona Gemachin eadar-nàiseanta, Hill SWPL hen deireadh cheachdain son eadar-nàiseanta Gemachin. And Talmaha sùil hortarash na thachair agus feikin còmhradh suas is sias. What a weekend of matches, 26 goals across the 4 games. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot, and I feel that unfortunately the 4 teams that are competing, I feel for the league title, Glasgow City, the Old Firm and also Hibs, I feel as they progress and obviously they've got more investment than other teams, I feel that those results will not continue, but I just feel the score lines will be like that because the players are training full time, they're fitter, they're better, and they attract players from all around the world now. So I feel we're trying to get away from that, but it's difficult. It's difficult to match. Like, not all the teams like Forfar, Spartans, Motherwell, they don't have the same investment as the other teams.
Well, if we do, let's take Hearts and Celtic first.
Yep.
I mean, a 10-0 defeat for Hearts. For them coming up from SWPL 2, that's a really, really tough season ahead for them, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it was always going to be tough for them. You know, they're losing Kevin Murphy, who went to Rangers. And I think that was a big loss because he would have attracted maybe more experienced players to help them. So that was a loss. And then obviously a new manager coming in just before the season starting. And I'm aware they've got a young squad. So I think that result will be hard for them to take.
How do you keep morale up, especially after their first weekend when they lost 5-1 to Rangers?
It's difficult. It is difficult in terms of trying to maintain that morale in the changing room, trying to keep each other going. And I feel the manager, he's very experienced in terms of the men's side of the football, so I'm sure he'll know how to deal with the younger players coming through. And
Fran Alonso, he'll be very happy with that result, especially after all the investment into Celtic.
Yeah, they'll be disappointed with their opening game against Glasgow City, of course. Obviously, the last 2 occasions they've played Celtic, obviously being victorious, and them bouncing back to have that victory would have been great for them, great for morale around the squad also, in terms of they haven't had much training sessions as maybe the other squads have. They started a bit later, so although they're full time, I'm sure they're trying to play catch up.
And Glasgow City for Farmington, Glasgow City are always going to be a tough team to come up against. What do you make of that result?
Yeah, I seen obviously when I'd seen Forfar had scored, I knew that wasn't going to last for the duration of the game. Do you know, it was a good game for Glasgow City. You know, they're playing obviously their Champions League game there. It was good to get another game on that venue, on that pitch, being in that surroundings again. And I think their manager had stated that Forfar were playing similar football to what they're going to face in Champions League. So that was great for them to obviously get a few goals also. That boosts morale also, and having players coming back from isolation.
And Glasgow City, I mean, securing the signatures of Hayley Lauder, Leanne Crichton, Joe Love just in the past couple of weeks, that's a good boost for them, especially after losing so many players at the start of the season.
Yeah, that's massive for them. I'm sure they'll keep that core group of players, the experienced players who have been there for so long, and you're always going to get that at Glasgow City. You're always going to lose the best young players, and it's slightly different this season in terms of they're losing 3 players to one of their biggest rivals, you could say. So that's different. Looks like they've already started to replace him in terms of bringing in Kayla Miki and the girl Tolan from Man City. So they're always a step ahead. So you can't write them off, and securing those 3 signatures for them is huge for everyone because they know exactly what it takes to play at Glasgow City.
Absolutely. And we've just moved on to Hibernian Motherwell. 6-0 for Hibs, a clean sheet. They'll be delighted with that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always tend to say it season after season, Hibs quietly go about their own business. They don't have a huge investment like Glasgow City or Rangers or Celtic, and will be competing. There's no doubt about it. And they'll still get experienced players there. And then obviously they've got a good youth set up. They bring a lot of academy players through, which is great. So that's a great result for them also.
And what did you make of Motherwell's performance?
I felt they were poor. I'm aware that they're missing 8 first-team players through injury. So a club like Motherwell losing 8 players, that's going to have a negative impact, of course, on the squad. And I know they'd brought in a few players from Celtic Academy, and they're just young girls, so to be thrown in at the deep end, shall we say, it was always going to be difficult.
If we just look at Rangers Spartans, a 1-0 win for Rangers, but Spartans, they're not a team to be underestimated, are they?
No, absolutely not. You know, Debbie's been there for such a long time, and we've got a core players as well that have been there a long time, and to tend to be like a family. They're a family community club, so they're always going to attract players in the surrounding areas where they are. And do you know, people might look at that and think, oh, that must have been tough for Rangers, and it would have been because Spartans are a good team at home.
And Demi Vance, she scored her 2nd goal for Rangers. Do you think we're starting to see this squad take shape now?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that them training at the Hummel Training Centre, it has its advantages. They're training full time. They've been training for a long time also before obviously lockdown happened. So they're bringing into international players. They seem to be gelling together now as a squad and as a team, and they're only going to get better as the games roll on and more training sessions together. And
we do just have the 3rd weekend coming up, but do you think we're already starting to see how the table's going to shape up this season? Yeah,
I believe so, and it'll take a lot of hard work to push Glasgow City aside, and obviously we've got the Old Firm competing, and they'll be under huge pressure Obviously from within their boards and their supporters. Once they start putting investment into women's football, the Glasgow teams, it was also going to be difficult to match it. So they'll be under huge pressure to bring some trophies back.
Absolutely, will be a very interesting season indeed.
Yep.
Hadúis fóra chorm son skipian SWPL agam bliana le chorm ag dascip a glúsid suasach during the season. Brain Shinish Cuideachd American nach Dundee United Haley Kern with a glúsid for Oregon, gebruichen avin thachair.
As Joey a hahadich in Cluicheadair spores for American nach Haley Kern and an goal le ball-coise.
My dad actually played football throughout his life too. So when my sister and I were growing up, he kind of just like started coaching us as too. So it was kind of like a family bonding activity, I guess you would say. And it kind of like, I got hooked on it, and you know, I'm here 17 years later now, and I've played football my entire life.
Cluinnidh Haley done the chead skipper ball-coise academy in Ban, the US Portland Thorns, with the Vrosnichi Gemor len the Cluicheadair and Chimichalar.
We trained at the same training center that they trained at as well. So we got to see them training before we started, and like just seeing those top class players just training, and like you also kind of got to interact with them. Because I know Alex Morgan, I know she's not on the Portland Thorns anymore, but you know, she used to play for the Portland Thorns, and now she's coming over here. Just seeing those players come over and kind of have the same idea that I have coming to the UK to play too. So it's kind of cool to see that.
Call the college choirs nach Highline, Winnick Haley in conference on the Davilische sheachdain. So ich for a do the deireadh farpachach kerst.
I mean, it's not like we just showed up and obviously we were amazing. We worked really hard to get to that place. That applies for the other teams as well. But just going into a community college setting, especially, and having that high class training and like playing those high class games too, it's kind of hard to find in the US is for 2-year colleges. So I was really, really lucky that I was exposed to that high class playing. And it was just an amazing experience. And like just the feeling of winning the championship itself is just so gratifying. And it was awesome. If you compare it to like university football over here in the UK, I wasn't really expecting this when I came over, but it's college football over in the US is, I would say, definitely a lot more competitive wise, because just the way that we think of things and like going through the programs. Normally what you do is you go from your club stage and then you would sign for like a 4-year university. And then after that, you start getting like the pro contracts depending on like who saw you and whatnot, or what school you went to. And that's kind of like how our connections start with the pro level, but that's not really the case here, you know? So you could go from playing like in a club, and then you have like the academy setting in the club, and then you have like the Prem 2 and the Prem 1 teams. So I just the levels are different, but it's the same kind of path, I would say.
As Joey forfar farming in Hakel, ha Haley inisht a Cluicheadair Dundee United, agus the still le and deireadh and an Alba.
I would say US, we're still a little bit focused on athletics and athleticism more so than actual skill set. Obviously, it doesn't apply to everybody. That's kind of just like a general analysis of the teams there. But coming to the UK, I noticed, you know, they focus a little bit more on like the mental part of the game and like thinking about, okay, do you have the football smarts to be able to like play and whatnot? So I think those factors are a lot more taken into consideration for players here than it is into the US, which I wish that we would do, but we just don't. We're not there yet, but we're getting there, okay?
Han Cluicheadair a gal páirt am sa program BT Sports Príomh Amas, ruta ha iad grún chorman sáiriche a hortí.
My university team captain saw it somewhere and she just sent me the link. And really, I just saw it and it looked legit. I was like, all right, well, I'll sign up. And lo and behold, they like called me the exact same day, maybe like 4 hours later after I filled out the application. He's like, yeah, we want you to come down. So it's kind of like, take your chances. And it turned out for the best. So it was a really great experience. Basically, the opportunity was to be seen by professional coaches who would watch you at the end against this like 11-a-side game against some other team, not to be named yet. They would just invite professional coaches to come watch the game. And the goal was to ultimately get a professional contract out of that.
Ha Haley géirí geiminn an ban a bhrosnacha gan an Alba, agus sé a bhí cluicheann an eadar-nàiseanta a suiringi an amas a smóa a haiche.
For me, the ultimate goal is to just get to that top level, play with those high-class teams. And if I'm being honest, like I really want to promote the Scottish women's side of things. And I feel like we're set on the back burners of things right now because men's football is on the forefront, obviously. They have a lot more fans and like they just produce so much more money than we do. And I just feel that if they got that media attention, I feel like more people would watch. And ultimately, that was part of the series too, is to bring women's football like into the limelight a little bit more and just kind of like get people's attention too, like not just always be men's football. Like there is the women's side too. So I really want to promote that as well.
Emma, what a move from Oregon to Dundee, but that's what you do as a professional athlete. You make these sacrifices to follow your passion.
Yeah, that's huge, and obviously being so young also to make that stage, that move away from her family. And she's got obviously a goal in mind. She wants to be a professional footballer and she feels coming to the UK, she then would have that opportunity. And however, it's not easy. It's not easy being a professional footballer, and as she's saying, she's looking to be picked up by a professional team. And you've got to do well in the league that you're competing in, first of all, to then be picked up by a bigger team, a professional team.
Because you've seen that throughout your career, haven't you? Kind of people come and go from all over.
Yep, all over. I've played with girls that came all over worldwide to Glasgow City, and people I feel out with our league feel that we'll go to Scotland and play, it'll be easier, and it's not easy. It is difficult to retain your spot in the starting 11, never mind getting into a professional team, a professional setup.
Haley mentioned players like Alex Morgan coming over from America. She plays in the UK now. She is someone who is such an inspiration for footballers all around the world, and she's come to the UK with such a huge social media following too, which is new in this kind of digital age.
Yep, it's crazy, and I don't even think she's played for Tottenham yet, but however there's all this, as you say, media attention around her. It seems to follow her. Like when you're watching the games on television, the camera just tends to go off the pitch and onto her, and everyone's interested. It's bringing a huge amount of support and the following with the women's football down in England also.
It does show also just how different football and soccer is in America compared to here, doesn't it? The kind of support that it has out in America.
Yeah, I feel they've got much more support, however, but when your national team is winning the World Cup, you would be expecting that support for the women's team and for those individual players and through sponsorship, and they don't always just play football, they're sponsorships by sports brands, etc. So that's huge as well.
It was interesting what Haley was saying about the different styles of play compared to America and the UK. It's much more about athleticism over there. When you bring that over here and you've really got natural style, that kind of makes a good all-rounded footballer.
Yeah, of course it is if you've got that, and then you bring obviously our base in Scotland and in the UK, you would say we're more on technical side of it, tactics, but then if you're bringing over someone who's into the fitness, S&C, then you're going to then make a good player.
Brilliant, thank you. As sé céad is cead bliana, ha Criogaid Alba a chéad cheann-suidhe boran ach go enimichuig. Is ishe sú Strachan agus ca buringi bliana is dúilge a hug son a stúra gáil bugan spórs. Brein trí seascad réisú, gus fein amach mar a haid dulgaí na dreuchd.
Rhain sy'n Strachan enw bi hyn nhw ddech chai e henymachach mar a chiad fydd yn cheann-suidhe ond yn ciad y deireadh bliana deireadh Cricket na h-Alba.
Well, the job sort of found me. I started on the board of Cricket Scotland about 4 years ago, and I was there on behalf of the clubs that had girls and women's teams, and that was a first as well. And I've spent 4 years on the board, and at no point did I ever think that being president of this organisation was something in my future. It's a huge honour to be the first female president of Cricket Scotland, but it's a huge responsibility too. I have the responsibility of making sure that, as you would always want to do, that you leave an organisation better than when you came to it. So it's a responsibility to get some things done and to progress some changes, a lot of which I think we're already starting to see in cricket in Scotland, but we have more work to do as well.
Sé corma hasio dy sŵ, dreuchd y Cuideachd yn dreuchd, agus na hiwmsich I hyn van opel le cricket fyddynich is Cluinnidh y chud gefeim.
I've seen women's and girls cricket start to grow properly within Scotland, and I've seen how it can grow elsewhere. I'm a huge fan of sport for all. And obviously I'm a woman, and so women's and girls sport is particularly close to my heart. And I come at the role slightly different, from a slightly different place than other people have done in the past, and I hope that that's a good thing. I'll possibly be a more challenging president than they've had before, but I don't think that's a bad thing either.
Ha brwy COVID-19 is stapt y chwydde tar tachatys yn bliana. Toshach I gymadadaf sa dreuchd don cheann-suidhe.
Well, to start with, I had to sort of hold on the blocks for a while because our AGM is at April, at the beginning of the cricket season, and of course that was right in the midst of the first wave of COVID-19. And I was working very hard in my day job as a doctor anyway, but I had planned in my year as president-elect, you know, the things I wanted to work on when I was president. So I've been sort of on the blocks for 6 months. And then at the end of August, we finally had the AGM, and so I'm finally now President of Cricket Scotland, and I have a slightly shortened term, of course, now to do all the work I wanted to do.
Ha dragan awn ag jes mi ging mynichach do fyddynich is Cluinnidh and the cricket. Dragan achil idd sŵ.
Well, of course, we have a tiny amount of total resource compared to the England and Wales Cricket Board. And so we are very used to having to cut our cloth accordingly. We also have a very clear strategy to try and increase the amount of women's and girls' participation, and also to improve our structure for performance players and for our national team and our national players, and therefore to improve our ranking within the global game of cricket. And I'm fairly clear that that won't be derailed by this crisis, but it definitely makes everything more challenging.
Ha sŵ y crutchen gymor ans na buanach gynna hadi ein vo spars ag a hula either.
I'm a keen multi-sports person, so I play squash at masters level for Scotland, I play tennis within the club here, I play cricket, and I play hockey. And so, as you can see by that, I love sport, and I love what sport brings to my life. I love the physical and mental health benefits of it, but I also love the social aspect of sport, and particularly team sport. Being part of a team who come together to play sport together is something very special, and there are lots of people who've never experienced that, and I want to help them find that joy and help them find the joy that sport can bring to them.
Mar a hwyr sŵ na patraia, sy'n amasaich ag deireadh driach gybi cricket na h-Alba an yn sychach na shear na hwyddia.
I would like to progress the aims of the organisation, which are to help make cricket a mainstream sport in Scotland. I think cricket has so many different forms of the game. So there's a form for everybody, but people don't tend to know very much about cricket. And so it's about helping people realise that we're welcoming to you no matter who you are, no matter what age you are, what sex, what ethnicity, or what ability or disability. We have a form of cricket that will suit you and that you'll come and have fun with. And if we can do that, and if I can progress that significantly over my time, then more people will be able to join this cricket family, this cricket community, and find something that will not only benefit their physical and mental well-being, but from which they'll get lots of fun and joy as well. And they can do it as a family. You know, there are very few sports that you can play in the same team as I have with your husband and both of your children. You know, and there's something really special about being able to do that.
Emma, women and girls sport being so close to Sue's heart is something that you can relate to, isn't it?
Yeah. Firstly, congratulations to Sue on a position. That's incredible, to be the first female president of Cricket Scotland. That's great. And as she says, she's looking obviously to better cricket in Scotland overall, and she says it's open to everyone. Sport's open to everyone, regardless of who you are, and I think that's fantastic.
And it was really lovely what Sue was saying as well about how special it is playing sport with your family. I mean, you're from a very sporting family. Your husband, Eddie, been involved in game for so long. Your daughter, Sophia, playing sport. How is that? Yeah, it's very different now because I'm not involved. So Sophia's almost taken that over. She plays with a little team called Coatbridge Thistle. She's only 4, but she's enjoying it, and I don't force her to do it. Like, she wants to be involved in sport, and I think it's important, is what Sue was saying, to have that social aspect, to be involved in a team and to meet different people. I think it's great. So yeah, our life's all sport. Because your daughter, she was the one who came to you, wasn't she?
Yeah, she came to us, and she said she wanted to play football because her mummy plays football. So it's something that I thought I would maybe take her to dancing or gymnastics. But however we went when she was free, and it took a little bit of time to get her into it, and it was about 6 weeks. And then now she says, have I got football tonight? Have I got football tonight? So excited. And she's only girl there, unfortunately. Well,
how important is it for you for her to grow up with girls playing sport, girls and women playing sport, just for it being normal?
Yeah, I think that's really important. I feel that although the women's football is progressing, what we're seeing, I feel that grassroots isn't. For example, she's one of 20 players and she's only girl. At that age, there's an older age group, there's only one girl, and then above that, there's no girls at all. So I feel getting more girls involved at a young age is important for grassroots, and I feel that there's still a lot of improvement to be done.
How do we make that improvement? How do we get those girls involved at a younger age?
I think it's I think we're starting to do it now, and getting international players from different clubs visiting schools, going in, being a role model. Now the game is progressing, there's more media coverage. I feel then role models will then come in front, and then that'll attract younger girls, and also parents to then want to bring their girls to football.
And we do have great role models with the national teams. It's so good to see, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great, and I think the national team, you're going back to speaking about the club side of it, is very competitive, whereas now, like, Shelley has a whole load of players to pick from, and that's great because it's really competitive. You've got many players based in Scotland and worldwide. And
just hearing Sue talk about how many sports she's involved in and how much benefit it brings for her life, that's really what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. I feel I'm missing that part of not being in a team environment, being in that changing room, that banter around with the girls, and I feel that's really important, and it's hard to adjust when you've had that part of your life, your adult life, for such a long time. I feel it's important to then, as she says, it doesn't matter what age you are, to still try and be involved in women's sport.
Absolutely. Well, it was great to hear from you this week, Emma.
Thank you.
Well, sin air san program eile, ma hang ford o Emma ar san bhí call rooms in studio. Fyti sif garlantal gach seachcin ar YouTube, mar sin jen cín seachcin ein sif go bhfuil a córtabh gan bí sif garlantal agus nach cailsif program san bí. Cennych a gresio an program acafse, mar sin sgilvanach fat is farsing agus cumabhar a bh coiad. Bad ac i spórs far nach na halbe, mar sin leif an dan.